Welcome to the Career Change Diaries podcast with me, Alice Stapleton. And today I'm delighted to be speaking to previous client and career changer, Rajiv Chande. Hi, Rajiv. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks, Alice. How are
Good,
you?
good. Yeah, good. Thank you. So nice to see you. And I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast and sharing your career change journey. So, Rajiv spent over 13 years working in counterparty and credit risk at Barclays and Bank of America. And he's now the founder of the Chande Project, a wellbeing and connection focused events business, and currently sits on the board risk committee for the Dharma Endowment Fund. There's so many words in there that I don't know what they mean. So looking forward to exploring that a little bit. And while building his purpose-led venture, Rajiv is also exploring how to apply his risk management experience to the growing field of sustainability and ESG risk. So yeah, lots to unpack in there. And I was before we started talking, I had a look through my emails as to when we first spoke, and it was back in May 2024. And I
Wow.
actually thought it was longer than that. I didn't feel like that was that long ago, but it
Mm,
sounds like so much has happened for you in that time. So, first of all, talk us through what work you were doing before you contacted me.
yeah, so I mean, my latest role was in counterparty risk, as you mentioned. So it's similar. It's within the sort of realm of credit risk. So we're very much concerned about if a client were to go bust, how much money would we lose? I won't go too much into the detail and bore the audience, but that was essentially I was managing risk on that side. Broadly speaking. And specifically, I was in charge of all the algorithms that do the electronic trading for the bank. So there was a lot of governance and setting and implementing controls around that. And also project work relating to risk as well. A lot of regulatory driven work as well. So I was in that last role for about 10 months or so, and prior to that, I was my whole career, in fact, had spanned had been in credit risk. So prior to that, I was in a business support role. I was in a reporting role before that, and really just I think since coming out of university, since doing my masters, just fell into credit risk, and 13 years sort of flew by doing lots of different pieces within that domain.
Yeah. Very easy to do, isn't it? 13
Completely.
years just shoots by. So what was your master's in?
So my master's was in quantitative finance. This kind of makes me shudder in a little bit, a little bit actually, because it's so different to what I'm about now. And my I did a degree before that, which was maths, accounting, and finance. So very left brain stuff, basically. Yeah.
Hmm. And can you remember why you did all that? Was the intention always to go into the banking industry and finance?
Yeah, so I think it's just as a result of not really knowing what else to do. I was good at maths, and therefore I thought, okay, well, what can I do with this really? Like, what's going to open up as many doors with what I'm good at? And I didn't really have any inspiration back at school. You might have done a sort of aptitude test, and they sort of list out a list of careers for you, potential careers, but nothing really sort of drew me in. And
Mm.
so I ended up going for a very safe option, thinking, okay, I'm just going to go into finance. And my dad said, if you don't have any real clue as to what you want to do, then maybe just go into finance or business. Funny enough, actually, like I was very much interested in music when I was younger, and I loved playing the piano, and I loved the drums, and I thought maybe this is something that I can explore as a career, but I didn't really have the courage to explore it further, or I didn't think I was good enough to explore it further. So I ended up, falling into just thinking, well, I'm going to go down the finance route, and just keep that's the way to sort of keep my options as open as possible. I'll just go down finance, and I'll find something within that, and I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. And do you remember at the time having any sort of deep doubts about that decision? Was it niggling niggling at you at that point, or was it just a sort of, no, that's what I'm doing?
It's funny because when I got my
that way?
first job after doing my masters, I got this job in Barclays investment bank, and I thought, what, I was like so proud of myself because I was just drawn to the prestige element of working for an investment bank, probably because of some sort of conditioning when I was younger, thinking that if you work in an investment bank, you've really made it, and the money's going to come, you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do, and you're just going to be in a secure place. So I didn't really have a sort of niggling feeling at that point in time. I just thought, actually, this is something I'm really looking forward to. Let's see how it pans out. And then I remember getting my first paycheck and thinking, wow, this is incredible. And I remember my starting salary as well. So at that point, it all felt really, it felt really good, actually. But I also, maybe deep down, there was a feeling that I hadn't intentionally chosen this path. I'd just fallen into it. So there was a little bit of skepticism there, thinking that, what, I might not enjoy this, but you know what, go along for the ride and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you say, it sounds like it was quite prestigious for you. It felt like a safe, secure option with lots of opportunities versus, as you say, a career related to maybe music or something like that. So, yeah, I can see how old were you then? You must have been.
I think I was about 23 because I also did a gap year after sixth form, just before I went to university, and the gap year was actually to pursue the music part. So I'd formed a band with some of my friends at school, and we tried to have a go at hitting the big time, and we ended up touring around Leeds and London. Our biggest claim to fame was Emma Watson came to one of our gigs, which was pretty cool.
Amazing! Yeah, that is cool. Yeah.
And so there was some part of us which was thinking, what, we could do this, but sort of reality, took hold soon enough, just making us realize that this is actually quite a hard sort of mountain to climb, and it's a real combination of luck and skill that you need for this industry. So I think fear took over, and also our band just sort of we had one band member who just quit altogether, and so that ended up just disbanding us, really. So had to go down, felt like then the safe path was going down the finance route.
Yeah. That's quite interesting because the last episode of the podcast with Joe, who he was looking at I suppose he was doing it, but yeah, as you say, similar thing, just a sort of reality of, okay, how am I going to make this work, and is it really going to give me the life that I want, and that sort of thing. Okay, so it sounds like everything was great to start with, first paycheck.
Yeah.
Sounded like that was a good experience. Tell me what then started to happen then that prompted you to get to a point where you thought a change was needed.
I think the longer I worked in risk or just for the bank, the more I started to pick up on these niggling feelings that were coming to surface. Thinking like, oh, what else is there out there for me? Like I've just literally just fallen down one road, and I've chosen this path, but not really intentionally chosen it. And I started to, yeah, as the work sort of pressure mounted up, I started to get a bit more conflicted in myself about, whether I was really being true to myself with the decision I'd taken. Um, so I basically got to a point. I think it was in my because for the first 4 years that I was working, I think I was having good fun. I had a good group of colleagues around me. Yes, I didn't feel like I had the most supportive environment sometimes with bosses, but still I felt, what, this is still good fun. I'm not being overly stretched. I don't feel overly stressed out by my work. I feel challenged enough, and I've still got, if I want to change things, I've got plenty of time. And then further down the line, I got into my next role at Bank of America, and I think that's when the sort of the niggling feelings that I was getting started getting more amplified, because there I felt like I wasn't being intellectually challenged as much, and therefore I think that feeling of not doing what I should be doing started to speak out more, or that voice started to speak out more. And then ultimately, it was the last role where I felt actually I was overly, at times I was overly stretched. And that was really the thing that sort of, I guess, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. That was, yeah, there were so many elements to that which sort of made me think, actually, you know what, I've got to do something about this now.
Right. So there was that lack of intellectual stimulation, and I get the sense maybe just coasting a little bit to the point
Yeah,
where you sort of think, well, what am I doing here? So then
yeah,
you move into a role that does challenge you, but challenges you too much,
hmm,
by the sounds of it, quite stressful and intense.
yeah. I think if I really objectively look at the workload, like it was all doable, but I think that was this mismatch in terms of, because there was this mismatch in terms of alignment to me and my true self. I think that's what made everything a little bit harder. And also there was other factors to it where I felt, because I didn't feel I didn't have enough colleagues working around me. I had one colleague that would come in, once or twice a week, but our days wouldn't always be matched. And then I had another colleague who was working in a completely different location, and then the rest of my team, including my boss, was in New York. And so for me, because I was working from home quite often, and the days that I did come into the office, I wasn't really seeing people that I knew and were friends with. That was also a big element in terms of why I felt probably a bit low in the role,
Mm,
and yeah, led me to quit. So it was definitely a combination of nature plus the work environment for me.
yeah. Well, yeah, I always think with those roles that are hard work, and as you say, yeah, the workload might be manageable, but if there's a real misfit in terms of the nature of it and the purpose of it in
Mm.
particular environments, it all just sort of comes together in a way that's not sustainable. Um, and can you remember what led you to that point of actually handing your notice in then? Because I think you handed your notice in with nothing to go to after that. Is that right?
Yeah,
Do I
that's
remember
right.
that right? Yeah.
When I look back on that, I think, yeah, I wouldn't have expected myself to do that, because it was, yeah, it's something that I had spent, 13 years of hard work to get to the director position, and I sort of, I don't know, I don't like to say this phrase, gave it up, but yeah, I ultimately sort of just quit on it within quite a short span of time. As in, it didn't take me long to think about, because I think it was this accumulated dissatisfaction with the role,
Mm.
and it just got to a point where I had to act on it. So it was getting quite sort of pivotal in that sense. So yeah, and I think it was, part of, so much of it was down to working environment, and I had this realization one day, or this very strong feeling that I've now got to act and I've got to do something about it, because otherwise I'm just living a lie, really. So it was a very gut-led decision ultimately, which made me leave. And I think so much of it is also why I quit without having something to go on to, was because I have always had this sort of deep level of inner conviction that whatever I do, I'll make it work. I'll find something that will make it work for me. So yeah, I think that there was this underlying belief that whatever I was going to do next, things would fall into place, basically. Yeah.
Oh, it's great to have that conviction, because otherwise it can all get very noisy in our heads, and want to do one thing but overthink it, and so many doubts and all that sort of thing. And what was your personal situation at that point? Did you have a mortgage, rent to pay, or?
Yeah, I had a mortgage. Wasn't living with anyone, and so it was all sort of falling on me to pay the mortgage. So yeah, I just thought, well, I thought whatever happens, I'm going to find a way to pay this mortgage. I didn't really give it too much thought, because I think this feeling was so overriding anything else that I was gonna quit, and I was gonna work something out.
So what did you do about the mortgage in your place?
Yeah, so I rented out my place, and have been renting it out ever since. So that was the way I thought, you know what, this makes sense while I still try to find what I'm going to do next. This makes the most sense, and I ended up moving back in with my mother, which felt like initially I was like framing it in my head as, this feels like two steps backwards. What am I doing? Like, this is, I've spent so long trying to build a life for myself, and to get a place of my own. But then I just also reframed that later down the line, and I thought, you know what, this is actually really, I should feel lucky to have this time with my mum, and just make the most of it. So and the way things have turned out with living together, like, we've made it work. We don't step on each other's toes. She gives me all the space I need. It's taken a hit on my dating life, I'm not going to lie, but but that is, you just have to take the rough with the smooth sometimes.
Yeah. But I remember us discussing this, and we were sort of saying that, if you go on a date and someone has a problem with that,
Yeah.
that's not going to be the sort of relationship you want to be in, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That somebody who finds your journey and what you've had the courage to do quite inspiring and admirable, that's going to be such a better relationship, surely.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously there are some aspects that are tricky, I imagine.
Yeah. I'd like to think those people exist. I think they're just they're few and far between. Or I think also dating just hasn't been, I guess, a priority of mine in the last year or so. Just because when you're in this stage, you're trying to build, and you're trying to get yourself to a very stable, secure level before you can add on any other layer of complexity.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, this could turn into a dating podcast. Who knows? Anyone out there? Okay, so you hand your notice in. Talk me through what the next few months of your life looked like then.
Yeah. So with this kind of newfound time that I had found myself with, I didn't really have a plan as such. The only thing I was thinking about was going traveling. I always thought, I mean, since I kind of missed out on that opportunity to do solo traveling when I was younger, I thought now was the sort of perfect time. So I ended up booking like a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, and just took that time to really decompress and have some space to breathe. And I had some unreal, unforgettable moments. Like I met the Dalai Lama, for example, in northern India. I
Amazing.
met such wonderful people along the way, and I think something within me just kind of unlocked. Like it was this. I guess it was the heart. Like I just felt like my heart just became open, and I started just showing, I guess, my best self to people that I was meeting, and within minutes you'd feel like you'd formed a really deep connection with someone.
Mm.
There was this feeling of me just being able to be vulnerable, very without any hesitation. And so I just had these really enriching experiences, and not all of it was amazing. There was times where you have your own lows as well. When you're solo traveling, you can feel a little bit lonely. When you've arrived in a new place, you've got to start all over again, and you've got to find ways to meet people. And naturally, it's obviously very transient with the people that you do meet. You can spend maybe a couple of weeks with someone, and then they'd go off and they go to another place, and you'd sort of be in the same place and have to find new connections. But overall, it was like I say to so many people, it was literally the best gift I could have given myself. And when I think about the conversation I had with my boss when she had learned that I'd wanted to quit my job, she was like, "Well, can you not find something else, within the bank, like just carve out some time to do that." And I said, I really think that I just need to take a complete step away from this. I just need to give myself the headspace and time to properly consider what I want to do next. And I think it just did me the world of good doing that. So yeah, I had some really amazing experiences. I met some incredible people who are still friends with me to this day, and it planted a seed, I guess, also because I was reading this book which is called How to Find a Fulfilling Career by this guy called Roman
Mm.
Krznaric, and he's part of the School of Life, and they get you to do this exercise within the book, which is literally create a personal job advert for yourself, and within that personal job advert, you've got things like what your skills are, what you care about, what your favorite causes are, and what your strengths are, but what your weaknesses are. All these sorts of things, it forms your personal job advert, and then you send it to your closest friends and family. So I sent it to about 10 or 11 people. And the idea is that they come back with 3 different suggestions for potential careers. And I had some really interesting ones come back to me, ones that I wasn't expecting at all. So that's what planted the seed. And then I guess the soil that the seed kind of um, came to life in was all these experiences that I had on my travels, meeting people and having wonderful connection. And um and then I guess the sort of sprouting of the seed was where I got some really amazing inspiration, where I went to some cafes in Bali, and I went to there were some in India as well, and there were these amazing community spaces which didn't just function as a co-working space, but they had like a cafe to it, and they had like events going on, and I just thought, this is where I felt most at home. This is where I was meeting people. So I thought, oh, imagine if I could create something like this in London. Like I feel like London needs this so much. Like
Oh, for
people are
sure.
really
Yeah.
struggling with isolation, loneliness, um, including me at times. And I thought, maybe there's something in this. So I sort of parked that as an idea in my head to sort of revisit when I came back to London. And then eventually, when I did come back to London, I started speaking to my cousin, who I'm quite close with, about this newfound passion for connection and community. And he was quite, I guess, inspired by the way I was talking about it. He thought, wait, maybe he's onto something here. And he's a doctor, and he had been essentially, he's studied for the last 10 to 15 years what it takes to create a happy, fulfilling life. And he's not just studied Western philosophy, but he's also studied Eastern philosophy, and he's kind of blended the two. And he's got this, he's curated this really amazing content. And he was, at the time, he was building a course based on this content for doctors and nurses who were going through burnout. And so he told me about this course, and we started just talking about our ideas and stuff. And he said, why don't you come down to Brighton? Maybe there's something that we could do together. And that's kind of, what sort of led to the next steps of us creating something together. It was just like this sort of aha moment, I guess you could say, where we were brainstorming and we thought, actually, you want to teach your ideas about mindfulness, but science-backed mindfulness, blended with Eastern philosophy. And I want to bring about connection and community, and I want to bring people together. So the logical thing was, why don't we do some in-person experiences? So retreats, the idea of a retreat was born. Mm-hmm. And so, we ended up throwing ourselves in the deep end and hosting our first ever retreat a few months later.
So how long was that period of time? Can you remember from when you, I suppose, came back to London?
So I came back I came back in April. And then I met up with my cousin Shiv in July or August. And then our first retreat was in November. Okay. Yeah.
So it all happened quite quickly in the end.
Quite quickly.
So, because I remember when we were listening to how you've described it there, I'm wondering what it was that prompted you to have the coaching, because it sounds quite seamless and quite confident, that journey. So can you remember what it was that prompted you to want coaching when you got back?
I did feel, I think it was around sort of May or June time that I came back and I thought, okay, I've got to put my foot on the gas now. I've got to start looking for a career, or start exploring what else I can do now. I've had my time off. I gave myself sort of 6 months, and I thought, okay, after 6 months, I'll get serious. And then I just felt like I wasn't sort of able to embed the sort of structure I needed by myself, or really had this sort of, I felt like I had this massive world of open careers out there, and I just didn't know where to start, really. I felt a bit overwhelmed by it all. And I hadn't communicated this to anyone, but it just so happened that one of my other cousins had mentioned to me, just had suggested, why don't you look into getting a careers coach? So that's what sort of planted the seed in my head. And that's when I started looking online to find one. And, your name popped up as one of the first results. And, I did a bit of my due diligence, being a risk manager and all that.
Got to do research.
She seems like a good fit for me. I've got a good feeling about Alice. So let me give it a go. And of course, never look back. And I think, it wasn't so seamless, because I think it was only until we were a few sessions in before I'd even talked about anything wellness related. And I think, by August time, that's, I guess, when it was something that I mentioned to you. That was the time where I also got with Shiv, and I came back and I said to you, I think this is something I should probably explore. And obviously, when we did a lot of the exercises together, the stars ultimately, when we were looking at, doing getting a short list of careers that would be possible careers to look into, Wellness Retreat Founder was like right up there. I think it was number one. So it was solidified. That idea was solidified through the exercises that I did with you.
Well, I do remember you saying that because you felt that the way you'd gotten into banking and finance didn't feel particularly intentional, that you were hoping that the coaching would give you a sense that you had really thought through what it was that you wanted to do next. And yeah, I do remember you had an inkling, and then the work that we were doing and the exercises that we were doing just really seemed to reassure you that
Yeah.
yes, that did seem like a very strong fit for you, I suppose. Um, can you remember when you realised that that was the direction you wanted to go in? Were there any fears or doubts that you had at that point?
So many actually. So many, because ultimately this was me going it alone. Yes, I had my cousin, but I'd never created something of my own. This is something that I was ultimately relying on to give me an income as well. So it was even more pressure I felt. But I think the overriding thing was that we were having so much fun doing it, and it was so different to what I was doing before. It was unleashing all these other things that were just untapped within me, like creativity and collaboration and just like just something which felt genuinely impactful. And so there were fears, no doubt, regarding income and, also working with my cousin. I was like, I don't know if we'd worked well together. Yes, we get on, but do we have good compatibility as business partners as well? So there were certainly doubts, but I think having done our first retreat quite quickly thereafter, coming up with the idea, we thought, I mean, the sort of feeling that we got from doing the retreat was just like amazing, and the feedback that we had from the retreat was amazing. So we knew we just had to keep going, and that sort of spoke over the quiet. Well, or at one point, the loud voice, the loud, fearful voice. So that sort of kept us going and gave us momentum.
Well, I loved your sort of experimental approach to it all to start with. You were very up for, okay, well, this is where I'm at right now, and I'm going to do this retreat and see how it feels.
Mm.
It felt like that sort of gave you permission to at least explore it as an avenue, which takes quite a lot of courage to actually put yourself out there. Were you nervous doing that first one or not?
Um, somewhat. I remember feeling a combination of nerves as well as excitement.
Yeah.
I think there was, because I felt like we had prepared ourselves quite well. Initially, the thought of me facilitating exercises where I guess I've always been that person where I think if you're going to do something, do it properly and have some backing, have some substance behind you. So I felt a little bit like an imposter initially, thinking, I'm trying to facilitate some of these connection exercises, but I've had no experience doing so. But having spoken to someone who does facilitate these sorts of things, based on what he knew about me, he said I would be fine, and I did as much prepping as I needed to do. So I was more excited than I was nervous. Probably at the beginning, when you have to welcome everyone to the retreat, and it's just that initial sort of moment. Yes, you do have to pinch yourself, but also, you do, there is that sort of the nerves definitely creep in. But a few minutes in, when you see people connecting and having a great time, and laughing and smiling at each other, like they're having a good time, therefore it automatically has a great impact on you, and you feel
Yeah,
much calmer.
but it is.
Yeah,
So I went to your second retreat, which did you say earlier that was in March?
that was in
You
March. Yeah,
said
this
March, yeah.
year.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was amazed at how quickly everyone connected. I mean, it was like we were all, long lost friends. It
Yeah.
was really, really lovely. And some of the exercises were amazing. And I really struggle with headaches. And I remember that was the first time I didn't have a headache in probably years.
Oh,
So,
that's incredible. I never knew
yeah.
that.
Oh, did you not? No, it
No.
was, by the end of the day, after all the breathing exercises and the yoga and the sound bath, I was feeling very zen.
That's so good to
No, it was
hear.
amazing. So yes, I highly encourage anyone who wants to attend. Well, what do you have coming up?
Well, we've just been thrown a curveball, actually.
Oh, okay.
We've got a friend in Bali who lives right next to this beautiful luxury villa.
Oh yes,
And
I
there's
saw
about
the pictures.
there's
Oh,
about 5
amazing.
bedrooms. So it can accommodate 10 people, and basically he's saying I can get it next to nothing for you guys, like literally at zero cost. And I don't know how he's working that, but he says if you guys want to do a retreat in Bali for a week, this might be your perfect way of experimenting with your first international retreat. So if we do go ahead with this, it would be priced very much at cost because it's our way of just testing new waters. And yeah, I think it's going to be framed as a nice gathering, because I think retreat, the word is just overused. But yeah, I think it's going to be our first ever not only international retreat but a luxury retreat as well, where we're doing multiple night stay.
Oh, that's just so amazing. Like, as you say, going back to where you were, it's just so different, isn't it?
I can't go back now, can I? Just too far invested.
Yes, from banking to retreats in Bali.
Yeah.
Wonder where I'd rather be.
We also have like a couple of other things that we're trying to do, because this is not only just about retreats, but it's also about other well-being events. So we're doing things like, because it's so much of this, the underlying thing, which is sort of underpinning this, is really about bringing people together, and creating some form of community as well. So we've also got a community walk coming up on the 25th of October. There'll be a bit of mindfulness there, but there'll be some connection exercises too. And then we've started increasing our online presence as well. We started doing a lot more social media reels. It's a bit of a necessary evil that you have to end up doing, but that's the only way. Well, it's just like,
enjoy doing those.
As in, you do, but it's just like, it's sort of very paradoxical in the sense that we're trying to get people to live in a way which is more authentic to themselves. We know what negatives come with social media, and it's just like, the ironic thing is we're putting ourselves out there and we're giving people messages about how to recenter yourself or how to practice mindfulness. And so much of this, obviously all of this stuff, is done outside of technology. So it is one of those things where, we've come to terms with that. We have to do it. But we're trying to do it in a way that works with us, really. And the other thing is really, we're so aware that people can't always come to these things in person. So we're going to do more online offerings like webinars and things like that, where someone might be able to sign in on their lunch break and just do a short breathwork session, or connect with strangers online as well. We're sort of trying to tap into lots of different things, really.
Yeah, so lots of big plans by the sounds of it. So we're just while we're on it, what's your Instagram page?
It's the Chande Project. So that's Chande, which often gets mispronounced as Shandy or Chanda. But yeah, it's Chande.
And you've got a page on LinkedIn as well, haven't you?
We just created a page on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. So if you do want to find out more, you can track that down. So looking at your bio, you also mentioned that you're sitting on the board risk committee for the Dharma Endowment Fund, and you mentioned about bringing your risk management experience into sustainability and ESG. So talk me through the thinking behind that side of things and how that fits with I'm really conscious about how I pronounce it now. The Chande Project. Is that right?
That's
Chande?
perfect. That's
okay.
perfect.
Yeah, no, you made me really self-conscious. Yeah, talk me through how you see those two avenues sitting together.
Yeah, the board risk committee membership, that was something that I was approached by a friend who works for the fund itself, and she said, do you want to get involved? It's a purely voluntary type of work, requires a commitment of around 2 to 4 hours work a week. But she said essentially this endowment fund, which is essentially taking big donations from high net worth individuals and then looking to fund impact led causes, but sort of very ethical causes related. It's Dharma it's a Hindu spiritual word, which relates to underlyingly it means purpose, and so all the initiatives are very much spiritually aligned. So essentially, they wanted someone to come in to build a risk framework around the fund, identify what our key risks are, how do we mitigate some of these key risks as well. So they looked at my expertise and thought I might be a good fit for that. So it's something that I took on board about a few months ago, and it's been a nice project to do on the side, and it's allowing me to sort of stay, close to my risk management background, but doing something a bit more impactful, which I've enjoyed so far. Things do move a little bit more slowly when you've got volunteers working for a fund, but yeah, it's been nice. It's been a good experience so far. And then the ESG aspect, ESG risk management specifically, it's my way of leveraging my risk management skills while pivoting into something a little bit more impactful. So it's still risk management, but it's risks which are related to, as the name suggests, environmental, social, and governance risks. So it's, for me, a bit more meaningful and tangible risks that I'm dealing with, rather than counterparty risk, which is what I was doing before, which is very much about really protecting the bank's balance sheet, and that's really it. So I've just started a course at Cambridge. It's an online course for 6 weeks. So it's all on ESG risk management. So it's really, all of this is kind of me balancing a bit of the head with the heart, knowing that I'm building up this business, but obviously that's going to take some time. Hopefully not too much time, but at the same time I have to balance it with the practicalities of obviously living in London and sustaining myself.
And is your hope that you'll eventually move back into your London place?
Yes, that's the intention. Yeah, as soon as I get myself back on my feet with a full-time or contracting role, the plan is to go back into my place. Yeah.
And do you see the two running alongside each other for, I don't know, quite a while, or indefinitely, or?
I hope so. I mean, I'd love it to reach a point where I've got both going on, but then the Chande project reaches this sort of this point where actually it's getting quite it's getting to a critical mass level, call it that, and it feels like I've got to put 100% in, because I don't know how sustainable it will be to actually have both a permanent role going as well as building a business. So that's where I'm talking about sort of balancing the head with the heart, really. But then I know going into something like ESG risk management, it's a bit more impactful, and I think that will fuel me I think both will fuel me, and so I hope they can complement each other for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like for you, you have these core themes that you really want in your life, purpose, impact, community, connection. And you found a sort of complementary way of bringing a lot of those alive in these two
Mm-hmm.
different paths for now. And I do remember through all our coaching work, those themes just kept coming up, kept getting louder. So really hard to ignore. So it's really lovely to hear how you've, found a way to bring them into your life, because it didn't sound like there was much of that going on
Mm-hmm.
previously. And where are you at with the drum? Remind me what the
The hand pan.
yes, yeah. So that, because that was something else you were exploring, training to do that, or maybe mindfulness. Be
Yeah.
not well. I'm not saying just the facilitator, but actually being one of the practitioners. So
Mm.
is that something you've continued to explore?
It's something I'm practicing by myself at the moment. It's an instrument that I picked up from Bali actually, and it's something that I play around 10 minutes, every other day to just try and stay on top of it. I haven't done any formal training as yet, but that's definitely part of the plan. I do feel like that musical element in me just needs to be kept alive.
Yeah.
It's such a good outlet to have, and yeah, I want to explore it further. I mean, I co-hosted the sound healing session that we had our retreat, the last retreat, and the one before that. So yeah, I want to keep doing it. There was a few ideas I had after my travels. I was thinking about being a sound healer or being a breathwork teacher. Those things I don't want to completely close the door on at all. Because I think, if I'm going to be doing this full time, I'd love to have more involvement in the facilitation aspect of it. And so I think these are the two areas that would probably speak out to me the most.
Right. Yeah, that's so funny, bringing the music bit back from all
Yeah.
those years ago into these new ideas. Okay, and so when you talk it all through your whole sort of career shift journey, what are your reflections on that experience so far?
Um, so I'm sometimes amazed that the way it's all transpired, like this whole new direction has transpired. I have to sometimes I can be quite hard on myself, and sometimes I just have to stop and pat myself on the back to sort of recognize the courage that it took to do this. Because I think if I had carried on, oh, gosh, there would be so many moments of these last 2 years I would have missed out on, and that just it makes me genuinely sad that I wouldn't have been able to have those moments. I've met some incredible people, you being included.
Oh,
I've
thank
tapped
you.
into what I think is my most authentic self. One of the challenges that has been a thing since coming back to London is London can very much condition you and go make you shrink a little bit again, and that's where I've relied on some of these new connections to sort of keep that authenticity within me, keep giving, keep treating people as best as you can, and naturally things sort of come back to you anyway, and it's having a certain mindset around things which I didn't have before has sort of kept me on the sort of on the path that I want to go down. So yeah, I'd say those are probably some of the big reflections I've had. And I think it's ironic because I'm a risk manager by background, but this was a risk that I didn't anticipate taking. But I would say, like, so often, like, one of the biggest reflections I've had is, the biggest risk is not taking a risk. Um, so I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. Yeah.
Well, that's a very good mindset shift. Absolutely. Can you think of any other particular shifts in mindset that have really helped you, like you just referenced there?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons why I burnt out, and I know burnout is such a commonly used word, but I felt like I was just trying to do too much at the same time as well. And I think one of the things that I've recently reflected on, and it comes up every now and again, but I just like to think of doing things now one thing at a time, really. Like, like how you have on an internet browser so many tabs open. I just feel like I'm so much more productive and so much more centered when I'm just doing one thing at a time, or if I've got one tab open, so to speak, on the internet browser. So it's that. I would say also, um, I think one of the things that came out from one of our exercises about life purpose was, or not even life purpose. I think it's almost like a life motto. And that stays with me to this day. And I try and sort of have that at the forefront of my mind. And that's basically, we all turn to dust anyway. So why not give life your best shot? Um, so yeah, I think those are the big key reflections for me, which have really helped me stay on track.
It's so helpful, that one. I think we get so caught up in the day to day. I saw this brilliant, I can't remember what his actual page on Instagram called. I think he's deep thinker, somebody. And
Mm,
he was saying, how bizarre is it when, I was relating it to career change, but when someone says, oh, be more realistic. And he was like, when you think about our planet and the fact that we exist, that's not realistic.
yeah,
If you had to explain that to someone, they'd be like, oh, come on. So, why tell someone to be more realistic, or tell yourself to be more
yeah,
realistic? The fact that we're all
completely.
here is utterly bizarre in itself. So,
Yes.
yeah, as you
And
say,
so much of
we
it
will
is
turn
like,
to dust.
yeah, and I think the people that you have around you as well, can really sometimes help, or either reinforce that message, or make you go back into safe thinking mode. So I think, like, I've become much more conscious about who I'm talking to in my life, who I'm getting advice of, like, whose advice I'm acting off as well. I think that, because, yeah, your environment, all the content around you, like, not just the stuff that you watch on social media, but also the company that you keep, really plays an impact into your thoughts, and then obviously your thoughts impact your emotions, your feelings, and your behaviors. So yeah, I think that's one thing I'm much more conscious of than ever before.
Yeah. Well, how did that sit with all your friends and family when you said, "Oh, I'm quitting my job and got nothing to go to. I'm going traveling. Now I'm going to start this business."
Do you know what? I didn't get one person saying, "Oh my God, don't do that."
Good,
I didn't get one
good.
person saying that. I think everyone probably could tell how miserable I was, and just thought, you know what, just go for it.
Yeah,
Like, just
yeah,
go for it, and take a break. I think they'd all realized that, yeah, maybe I'd been working myself too hard, probably put too much pressure on myself. So they were like, take 6 months off. One of the guys was like, take a year off, and I said, no, a year's too long. I'll just take 6 months. And now it's been all over 2.5 years since I've actually been in paid employment. But obviously, I've been setting up something for myself, so it's not like I've not been doing anything. But it's just, still, when you look at it like that, yeah, I just didn't anticipate it being, this long since I'd be working at a desk.
Well, that's the thing, as you say, you have been working.
Yeah.
You're doing it under the self-employed hat.
Yes.
Um, and are you doing that all off the back of savings, or do you have, passive income of some sort, or?
Well, I've got my rental income is, I mean, it's just about covering my mortgage plus a few other expenses. I've got a couple of luxuries in there, which I was like, I don't want to give up because, at the end of the day, it's the stuff that it's investing in my health, which I really invest in so much more than I used to. So it's like certain things that you just know you have to, you can make peace with that. You're going to put your money to that. But yeah, I've really been living off my savings mostly. It has that's probably been the most challenging part of this whole break that I've taken. Just going into my savings and seeing no incomings apart from
Mm,
the rent. So that's been really challenging because obviously you sometimes compare yourself to other people, you compare yourself to your friends, and people are building their families, moving into bigger homes, uh, and so there is that comparison that you inevitably do now and again. But I also I'm still trying. I also very much like of the belief that you're on your own journey and things will work out for you when they're meant to work out. So yeah, that's definitely been the hardest part.
well, and as you say, we all turn to dust
We all
anyway, and
don't
those
exactly.
those those homes go on to the next owner and the next owner and the
That's
next
it.
owner until no one remembers you anyway. So, yeah, that whole comparison thing. I mean, it's amazing what a hold it can have over us.
Yeah.
But that sort of philosophy and mindset can be so helpful just to bring you back to actually, well, what's important for you right now. Backed with what you said earlier about your conviction and belief that you'll make it work, and you're looking for a paid role at the moment. And yeah, I think the Chande project's gonna be amazing. So
Thank you.
I've got the images of Bali in my head now. I have to book my ticket. Okay. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to share? Any other pearls of wisdom or advice or encouragement to any
um,
other career changers listening, maybe?
yeah, I mean, I guess take it from someone who is a risk manager by trade, and also probably risk manager by head, for most of my life. I would just say don't fear the unknown. Like I said before, the biggest risk is not taking a risk. Um, one when you really let go and surrender, some amazing things can happen, especially if you put some intentionality behind it. You just don't know what you'll end up attracting. And I think had I been talking to, I don't know, Shiv with my idea, or about connection and community, if I hadn't had that experience in Bali and all of the other travels, I wouldn't have come at it with the same energy that I did when I was talking to him about it. And I think that's what made him think, this is something that we can do together. Um, I also appreciate that some people might not be able to completely quit their jobs. It's quite a drastic thing, but you don't have to quit your job to make change. You can start small. I would just start with some exploratory chats, find out what do you think about what you're curious about. Write these things down. So often we don't write things down, we just let them sort of mull over in our head. But if you start writing things down, list your sort of curiosities, and then go down the path of exploring those curiosities and networking and learning and connecting with people. Just don't be afraid to reach out. And of course, if you can afford to quit your job and you think that you've reached a point where there's no other options, and I don't know if I explored all the options, but I just felt like that was ultimately what my gut was telling me to do. I think the best thing that you can do is just, give yourself some space. Don't just go guns blazing into another role without really giving yourself the right headspace to think about what it is that you want to do, and also having some accountability, like I did with you. Having a coach just helps you sort of structure that journey, because it can feel like a very lonely place trying to do this on your own. And actually, it's funny because this conversation has just reminded me how helpful it is to just have that dialogue with someone who can coach you, and someone who can sometimes challenge your limiting beliefs, and get you to think a slightly different way, because your friends have your best interest at heart. They don't. They often might just give you answers that you think are not quite. They don't always have the full picture in mind. And I think with all the exercises that you do with your coach, it can lead to some very fruitful analysis and conclusions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like the purpose exercise, and I think you're referencing the powerful self motto. Sounds like that's really stuck with you. So that's really good to hear. I miss our sessions, but it's so nice to hear where you've got to with it all, and yeah, looking forward to just sort of seeing where it all goes next for you. Sounds like it's a exciting chapter in your life for sure. Okay, well, thank you very much. And as we said, if you want to check out the Chande Project, then does it have a website as well?
In progress. I mean, bare bones right now. Yeah, we need to get going on that. Okay. But yeah,
so it's Instagram mainly for now.
Instagram mainly, yeah, that's it.
And are you happy for people to reach out to you through that if they want to just chat to you about your journey a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whether they want to chat about the journey or Chande Project, whatever, I'm absolutely open to any dialogue there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thanks again and good luck with it all, and I'm sure we'll speak soon.
Thanks so much, Alice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.